Welcome to Guildhall. My name is Casey Dalene. I'm the curatorial assistant. I'm coming to you from the building, so there may be a little background noise right now, so bear with me, but I'll make my way to the galleries in a minute. I'm just scrolling through to see who's joining us. Yay! Thank you so much for being with us on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. So happy to have you. Hey Joe, hey Sue, hey Rita.
Hey Casey.
Hi.
Hello. Anthony, you have a mustache.
Do I look like this is my mask?
No, Anthony has a mustache.
Oh, Anthony, yes he does.
Very, very lovely.
So Sue was just saying hello to Anthony Madonna, who's on the call with us. He's our Patty Kenner Fellow in Arts Education, who helps with all and designs our educational programming, as well as helps me with this virtual art salon program that we've been doing throughout this time.
Joe Brando.
Yep, it's so nice to see everyone, even though only virtually. But I really felt like this program was a way that we could all still get together, still talk about art. Even though it's not perfect, it's Zoom, and we'll probably have sound issues and technical issues, but we'll get through it and make the best of it. The whole point is that we can all be together and still continue these really important conversations and enjoy artwork together. I'm in the vestibule right now at Guildhall. We are open on the weekends, Monday through Friday. I'm sorry, Friday through Monday. So Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays. This weekend's actually our last weekend for the Artist Members Exhibition to be up, and then we'll close for a little while we install the next show. But we have some really great safety procedures in place, and I just wanted to quickly tell you guys about that so you're comfortable visiting. We've got an entrance on one side, exit on the other, so you're only coming in, it's touchless. Right now I have the doors closed, it's so loud out there, you may not be able to hear me otherwise, but these doors are open. The box office is where you check in, so there's the plexiglass separation between you and the receptionist. There's a lot of QR codes so that you can do everything from your phone, touchless. Just mind my camera work, I apologize. You can register to visit. If you haven't registered already, we are doing registrations. Every hour we allow 30 people, just to, again, keep social distancing in place. You can shop and view the show online. You can do your membership renewals, etc., as well as donate all online. And we just, of course, are reminding everyone to wear masks and social distance. I am in the building by myself. I'm filming this myself, so I am not, closer than 6 feet to anyone. So I have taken my mask off just so you guys can hear me. And we do have some maintenance people sort of walking around, so I'll kind of keep it on me, but for now I'm pretty much alone in the museum. So you get into the lobby, we've got a little example of what 6 feet looks like here. So everyone is aware, it's a lot longer than you think. And then hand sanitizer. I'll show you. Hand sanitizer stations. And then of course, this is our signage that goes outside usually. And we are asking everyone to walk in a clockwise direction around the galleries and just maintain social distance while you're in the galleries. Sorry, I'm a little shaky. And then the bathrooms are open and available. But again, we have a lot of signage in there for social distancing, and we've closed off like every other stall and every other sink, just so everyone can continue to be safe. So we've got it set up pretty good so that everyone here is safe when they visit the museum. So we're open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 12 to 5 this weekend, so you can still come and see the show. And it will be online through Monday at midnight to view and shop as well. So let's get started. We have 8 artists that were able to join us today from the winners. I wish I could have done all the winners. There were not only the sort of top winners, and then there were honorable mentions, but with a 1-hour art salon program, I could only really fit the top winners, and we have 8 out of 9 of those. So I'm so thrilled. Thank you all for joining me today. And we are going to start with Bastienne Schmidt, whose work is right next to me. show you, so excuse my hand. So there was a size restriction for the submissions, and it's mainly local artists or artists of the sort of tri-state area, because you have to bring your work to Guildhall in some capacity. We don't accept shipments. So other than that, and you have to be a member of the museum. So other than that, there's no jury. We don't choose who gets in the show. So we received 435 applicants this year, and they were juried by Susan Thompson, the associate curator at the Guggenheim, and she chose 17 winners this year. And Bastienne, I'll show you her piece again, excuse my hand, won Best Abstract. This piece is called Colored Grids from 2018 and Mixed Media on Canvas. And again, I'll do my best with my camera work here to give you guys a view of the piece. But Bastienne, please tell us about this piece as it relates to your larger body of work and why you selected it for this year's members show.
Hi, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you, Casey, and also thank you, Christina, Guildhall. And it's a wonderful thing to bring us all together in different ways. Some of them are a little bit unusual, but I'm really grateful for it. So in this particular body of work called Colored Grids, basically it's kind of a project that I've been working on for the last 3 to 4 years. And it started out with a concept called grids and threads. So I interfered on paper, punched holes on the surface of the paper, the shape of a grid. And for me, it was like really the understanding, not just a spatial understanding, but how do we inhabit a space? And for example, I did a residency at the Watermill Center where I kind of put these kind of fabric markers out to physically mark the space. But then I decided also to work directly on canvas and with fabric and mixed media, and to create these like, they're in a way kind of quilt-like beings, but they're also kind of more free-flowing or so. So in a way, I feel like I put together the yin and yang of Annie and Joseph Albers. So it kind of relates to the Bauhaus tradition to be quite geometric and methodological, but on the other hand also to have like the soft geometries when you pull this and stretch like the threads. So for me, what's particularly important is like the aspect of seriality. I like to work on these long series because I see them not just as individual pieces, but each time you work on a new piece, you kind of ask yourself these kind of relevant questions. How do they relate to each other individually? And it informs like the next piece too. So in a way, I find it always very hard to pick the one piece or so, because I see them more in a long line of something or so. So for me, the whole project in essence is kind of important because it brought me on this journey. And right now, like what also has changed with the project, sometimes I work just the fabric and I don't paint it, but right now I paint actually the muslin fabric itself. I tint it or pigment it, and then I kind of cut it out and kind of sew it together. And it makes me also think of my childhood in Greece. We worked a lot with kind of found material, and the women, particularly in the villages, they made their own carpets or they collected these materials that were of reuse. So it's kind of part of my trajectory and also part of my kind of way of kind of dealing with things. I collect things all the time, and while I collect them, I already think of things I can do with them. And on the other hand, it also goes back to this idea of domestic nature. I mean, I spent a reasonable amount of time at home because I had 2 sons that now they're grown up, but for many years I kind of looked close up at ideas, how we kind of can reframe the domestic dialogue that a lot of times is kind of forgotten or considered non-artistic. And I found it actually very inspiring. I was inspired to do a history of stains based on Ed Rocher or so, that I kind of like collected stains on tablecloths and kind of reset it in my own artwork. So for me, it's always the yin and yang of something that's experiential, but also then a certain kind of stringency that I base my project on, that I read a lot and do research.
Wow, that's wonderful. The work behind you, Bastienne, and where you're sitting right now, is that the same series of work as the piece?
Exactly. I mean, Shall I flip the camera so you can see a couple pieces live, or is anybody up to
Sure.
it, or is that?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Only if it's possible, but.
Okay, so here the white on white works. That's
Yeah.
how it started out. So it's kind of cotton canvas but also painted. So this is a very new work here. Hold on. It's basically sewn cotton canvas and then painted and sewn white and yellow cotton canvas fabric. Here are some other ones from this series that are also in part painted and part sewn. So
Yeah.
I like to mix it up. And here, that's also a big piece.
Yeah, it's just the colorway made me think of the same series there in those larger pieces.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. Sometimes like a new color enters my hemisphere of work or so. And then I really get into it. For example, initially it was the white on white, and now, and then I introduced blue and a tiny bit of red, but now I'm very much into yellow. So I did a lot of pieces that were just sewn yellow with the cotton canvas, but also like a light piece of white painted.
Wow, those are beautiful.
Thank you. Anyway, that's a little bit my
Lovely, thank you so much. Yeah, I remember Susan Thompson, the juror. She really was attracted to a lot of tactile, textile-based work. You'll see as we go around the winners, there's a bit of a common theme there. And of course, your work has that textile process. And sometimes she actually picked her favorites and then gave them categories, which each juror approaches it at a different angle. So I know your work, Best Abstract, fits really nicely, although it could have fit into a few of the categories, but what a beautiful piece. And congratulations on the award.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna make our way around gallery. And next we will make our way to Darlene Charneco's piece. Let me turn you around again. Thought it might be nice to see the galleries for those of you who haven't been able to come by the museum. Darlene's piece is here in our Moran Gallery towards the back, and Darlene is our incredible top honors winner from this year's exhibition. So the juror selects one top honors artist who, in addition to getting the top award, is awarded an exhibition in our Spiga Gallery 2 years later. So Darlene will also be able to have a solo show here at Guildhall, and we are beyond thrilled about that. All right, let's go back to the artwork. All right, again, excuse my camera work. I'm doing my best here. Darlene, tell us also a little bit about this piece and why you chose it for the show. It's called Seed and Symbiosum, Future Nurture 2018, and top honors.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Casey. And I'm thrilled that won. That was amazing surprise. It's actually from 2020. So
Okay.
But it's part of a series that over many, many years I've been working with creating pieces that are sculptural paintings. So they are mixed media. It evolved from writing. I wanted to make a Braille-like writing. So these are pieces that are made with a code of hammered nails that extrude from the piece. And it's about, for me, sense making. So I want you to be able to feel information as opposed to reading words. So there's, to me, a lot of sort of embedded information. And the pieces started as very literal sequences, language, page-based. And over the years, it became a condensing into one nail, a process that's like a meditation, hammering in a nail with a thought and intention for positive humanity evolution. So this is kind of very methodical in its process. I'm hammering and rippling out a sound. And then the pieces are now sort of forming their own shapes that tell a larger story. Whereas before I was coding them in a sequence of sentences. So this piece is part of a series of future nurture, which are, I call them sometimes weaves or touch maps. And it's a way of, for me, making sense of things, literally making sense, but of the abundance of information that can sometimes overwhelm, and we're trying to find our way in this world and move forward. And I sort of want to feel out that scene. And a lot of them are, I'm working down, and they're sort of like touch maps this way. And I feel it as a landscape, and I'm sort of working with my fingers to build up shifts and movements around them. With this particular piece, I was moving around a lot, and so this actually worked well because this was a piece I was able to move and continue to work on because of its size. It was smaller than my other large pieces, like the one behind me. And then this was, I'm in a residency now. It was the first piece I could kind of take out and start continuing work on. And for 2020, it felt, I'm doing research on symbiosis. This has been an interest in thinking about our future as humanity and learning from nature. So I'm always out in nature, sort of looking at the plants and the insect interactions and trying to see about ways of looking at groups and organisms working together to form something new. So I thought this was a very kind of important place to try to make sense of. And the symbiosome is within a plant or a mammal. It's a specialized space that holds the symbiont. And that would be two different organisms or two different beings that have begun living together. And my hope is about mutualism, so evolving mutualism. So this kind of shows a bit of what I'm studying biologically with membranes, semi-permeable membranes, and beings that are evolving ways of working together to help each other and nourish each other. And then it's, for me, also very metaphorical. So it's our societies, our civilizations, our different races, everything that's happening is so strongly, I'm trying to make sense of it. So I'm touching these, and they are telling their stories to me as well. I'm hoping that it conveys beyond the word in this format. So.
Definitely. Wow. When you say nature and biology, and I really see that in this piece and in your work in a way I hadn't prior to you mentioning that. And I have been watching your Instagram and all the beautiful nature moments that you are studying and capturing during your residency. And you have such an amazing way of looking at detail in the world and conveying it, and yet looking at the big picture. Your work, references that as well, and the larger patterning of all of the smaller parts. And then to just briefly, Darlene, talk about your process a little. You choose different colors, sometimes for the nail heads, and then some of them are resin coated, I believe. Do you want to just briefly talk about how these decisions come about, or what, how they play into the work?
Well, in the beginning, when I was making pages, at the end of a sentence, which would be your hope for creating new tomorrows, there would be the period, and on that I made one nail head with the resin bit on top. And that was, to me, that new tomorrow kind of hopefully coming into being. In time, also, they started to become aerial views that I was seeing us within that network, within that space. And in these touch maps, especially as we're thinking of symbiosis or mutually working together into the future, it's feeling where we are. So those are indicative to me of placement of us and what is happening, where each and every one of us has a role in this that is unfolding. And that bit where you are is so important. And I like to kind of almost, in my process, send love, energy, support to each of us within that larger landscape as we navigate what we're going through, and hopefully helping together to form and feel a support network together. So those bits are tangible spots that I kind of see us within the landscape.
Sure. Sort of small moments where you capture the individual, quote unquote, as a part of the whole, through color or a changing direction of the nail or moment. That's really, really incredible. Well, your work's beautiful. How big is the piece behind you? It looks really big.
I was like, oh, I can just back up next to this one. It'll be its background instead of the rest. It's 5 foot by 5 foot. So this is one of the larger pieces that I'll work on for a long period of time. And I love doing that, just bit by bit, seeing it kind of come together. And as things are happening, I'm putting in, these are prayers and wishes. So of course, now I'm working on large ones that incorporate everything going on. And I'm just trying to find ways kind of to cultivate a determination, and that we are all doing something positive, small actions into this future that we need to co-create together. So that, to me, that's our tapestry. We're shifting and changing in unbelievable ways right now, biologically and socially, and we're part of it, but we're seeing how it unfolds.
Yeah. Your work can teach us a lot about how to cope right now, taking all of this, variation and social change, et cetera, and dialogue, and sort of organizing it into a piece, making sense of it, sending positive vibrations and thoughts, and creating something really beautiful in the end. I love that. Thank you so much, Darlene.
Thank you.
All right, and moving on. Now we're in the Stiga Gallery. Give you guys a little view really quick. This is Julie Solomon's piece here. When I first saw it, I didn't know what it was made out of. At first glance, I assumed feathers, but that is not the case. Julie won the Best New Artist. She's new to the Artist Members Exhibition, so we have a slot for that. The piece is called Hindsight, with bobby pins, vintage glass beads, and fabric. And the fabric is a velvet suede type of texture here. Julie, please, this is such a unique piece. And like I was saying earlier, the juror really picked some very interesting materials in the works that she selected, between Darlene's and this and Bastienne. I mean, they're all so incredibly unique as far as the materials used. So Julie, talk to us a little bit about this work and how it relates to your larger body of work and why you chose it for the members exhibition.
Thanks, Casey, and thanks, Guildhall. First off, the piece was made this year, so it's actually Hindsight 2020. And it was made specifically for this event. I'm new to Guildhall, and I found out about this event in January when we were traveling, and I thought right away what I wanted to make for this. But as we were traveling, I didn't know when we were going to be back or if I was going to how many I've made bobby pin piece before, so I knew kind of what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how many I had. So I immediately started to collect them on our travels. And at night would slowly put all these little groupings together of the bobby pins. So each of these little clusters are anywhere from 15 to 20 bobby pins. There's 1,600, 1,600 and I think 30 in this whole piece. So I put each little cluster together, and then all of the clusters get attached onto canvas covered in black velvet and then individually sewn on because they're pretty heavy. And then the vintage glass beads are added throughout, and those are also sewn on. So the whole idea, I mean, my work, it's funny to be the new artist because I don't feel like a new artist in the sense that I'm kind of a lifelong creative and a lifelong collector of objects. And I think the way I move through the world kind of lends itself to my work in that I collect a lot of things, everyday objects, and have ideas for them to be pieces. I think one of the best compliments is when somebody looks at it from a distance and appreciates the aesthetic of it, and then gets up closer and squints and says, "What is that? Is that bobby pins? Is that licorice? Is that gum wrappers?" Like that, to me, I love that. It just makes me kind of giddy. Because I think that's the world we live in. There's so many things on the surface that can look beautiful or intense, and sometimes you just have to take a closer look and see it a different way. So this piece was inspired by a friend who always has kind of a crazy updo going. She has flowers in her hair or feathers or taxidermy, just everything. And I always tease her about having bobby pins everywhere to keep all of her items in her hair. And one time it was her birthday, and I just started fooling around with making a small little piece for her with bobby pins, and it turned into this whole project, and then a whole line of work that I would, more conceptual work that I want to make with bobby pins. So this, when I found out about the exhibit, I thought this is perfect. It gives me an opportunity to jump back into things, to explore this new community out east, be a part of it, and to make another one of these pieces. So this was specific for Guildhall.
Wow, made for, and I think it's just the perfect size for the exhibition, which I think, yeah, that's how I knew that you had made it for the show was.
Well, and one funny thing, so we were traveling, and I had collected all these bobby pins, and they're pretty heavy, and we were on our way back, and there wasn't really going to be a lot of time. I knew I could have time to put all the pieces together, and I was afraid of shipping them back, and I was afraid to put them in my checked luggage, so I had them all in my carry-on bag, perfectly stacked with tissue paper and in these little zip pouches, you know, all there. And of course you get through security, and there was all these red flags. People were called over. What are they? What do I have? They're so heavy, they're metal. And I was trying to explain that they're for an art piece, they're bobby pins. They made me take them all out. I was doing some crazy looks about it. But then at the end, I was walking away, and one of the security guards, I heard her laughing and saying, "Bobby pins, that's a first." So apparently not a lot of people bring 2,000 bobby pins through security.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I think artists, I'm sure there's a lot of stories artists have about experiences like that. I feel like such collectors and makers, no matter where you are traveling, bringing it along with you, sure raises a lot of eyebrows. Oh my gosh, well, it's a beautiful piece. Thank you so much, and congratulations. All right, moving on, we're in the Moran Gallery, and it's already 4:30, guys, so I do have to kind of keep moving. I don't want to keep you guys past 5, and I would love to have time for a Q&A for everyone. So next we have Daniel Jones' photograph, which won Best Landscape. We have a Catherine and Theo Hios Best Landscape Award every year, both of which were really beautiful. Well, Theo Hios was a really beautiful landscape painter. And here is Daniel's piece. Daniel, tell us a little more. I have here that it's titled Time Passage. This is a photograph. Tell us a little about it and how it fits into your larger body of work. Are you there? Just unmute your, I think you're muted, Daniel. There you are. Oh, can we hear you? Thank you.
That's Kate, by the way.
Hey, hi, thank you, Kate.
I just want to thank you for doing this. This is really awesome. And thank you to the whole staff for putting this on.
Thank you.
The piece is an extension of a series I started probably about 6 years ago. And it has to do with motion. It's a photograph. And I moved the camera to create bands of color, basically a tribute to the color field painters from the 40s and 50s. This is a slightly different set of camera stationary and panning it or moving it. I'm in a moving vehicle, and I'm doing a series now called Time Passages, and this is one of the pieces. And if you look at it, it's very rectilinear, bands of color. And I'm sure not too many people take pictures of guardrails, but what happens because I'm moving so fast, about 60 miles an hour, is that all the stanchions that hold up the guardrail just disappear, and everything that's in the foreground is blurred out and distorted, whereas everything in the background is almost perfectly clear. You can kind of make out some fields and trees in the distance. Basically, my attraction to making this series was when I was a little kid, my mom moved us out west. My parents had split up. And the only thing I remember from that trip, I was 8 years old, was just looking out the window and just miles upon mile of expanse. And that's what I remember, is just these bands of color and just striations. I don't remember too much about the trip because I slept most of the time. We drove across country in 4 days, and anybody that's driven across country knows that that's a pretty quick trip. So this component of the series, I started maybe a year ago, and I chose this particular piece because it was shot this year, shot in February.
Yeah.
And the hardest part about doing this from a moving car is keeping everything perpendicular and level. Over time, I've perfected the technique, and sometimes I re-photograph the image different seasons because you end up with different color palette. But that's pretty much it in terms of, you know, now they're much more predictable. I actually sketch them out and I do little studies, and then I go back and I repeat the process over and over until I get exactly what I'm looking for in terms of balance of composition and colors, and making sure everything is rectilinear or linear. And that's the hardest part, is keeping the camera level and anticipating what's going to be in the scene or in the shot.
That's great. And I love the abstract quality of the photograph, and the technique behind it makes it so interesting. Rather than just being stationary and taking a photo of something, you are sort of distorting it and using the camera, using the movement and light. When you mentioned being out west, I can totally see that in this picture. Those just long, flat highways are, no wonder you don't remember much. It kind of looks the same.
It's actually really trying to portray time and space. The picture probably covers 15 to 20 feet as I'm driving.
Wow.
So the hardest thing is keeping the camera steady so I really get the maximum effect. And people seem to gravitate to the image or the series of images because it does have that kind of dreamlike quality, especially in the foreground. And I can extend the exposures up to 8 to 10 seconds, and they become completely abstract, and they just become bands of color.
Oh, that's beautiful. Was this taken out here?
Yeah, that's in Madison
Yeah.
on the North Shore.
Yeah, architecturally, I see some of the homes look like of the area. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Daniel. This is a great piece, and congrats on your award for Best Landscape. And it's a photograph of a landscape. I love that too. And Daniel, did you win Best Photograph last year? Was that?
No, I won Best Landscape as well.
Best Landscape last year also. Okay, I always get turned around.
I have to stick with landscapes or something. So.
Yeah, and I think last year's image was of a cityscape.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Urban landscape.
An urban landscape, yep. Wonderful. Okay, that's Moran and Spiga Gallery. I'm going to head over to the Woodhouse Gallery. Through the lobby here. All right. I will warn you guys, my phone gave me a little notification that I'm running low on battery, which it was charged fully, but you know, these things you can never necessarily predict. So if I do go out, I'll grab my laptop, won't be a problem. I'll sign right back in and we'll keep going. But if we do get interrupted, that's why. Don't worry. Okay. So I'm in the Woodhouse Gallery, and we're going to first talk about Johnny Miller's piece here, right at the entrance. And Johnny's another photographer, and this piece won Best Photograph. It's a very small photograph. It's a Polaroid, I believe. We'll have him explain more about the process in the film, but very small piece, and it's minimal. It's just beautiful. Really lovely. Johnny, do you want to give us a little more information about this piece? And
yes, thank you so much.
thank you.
Yeah, I was excited to enter this. I've been working on this body of work for about 5 years, and it was the first opportunity that I had, or that I felt like I wanted to kind of put it out there, which started off as sort of these found objects from my backyard that I was shooting on this just white surface in the direct sunlight. So I kind of, you know, the formula for me became this thing where I could only shoot when the sun was out between like, I think it's like 10 and 2 for my backyard. And it was whatever I wanted. You know, it was sort of this response to, honestly, quite a bit of the digital commercial work that I've been working on that was so like, just overly thought about, you know, it was just too much. This is a Fuji FP100C print. So you're actually shooting the print itself, and then you do get a negative with it. I saved the negatives, but honestly, I haven't printed any of them. I love the idea that it's a single, that's it, right? You get one. The subject matter, I think, is everything. I mean, I shot 2 pieces today, 2 dried alliums. So it's sort of whatever that sort of comes up in the backyard or what I have. But this, honestly, the reason I chose this one was the date, you know, the 4th of July last year. You know, the single slice of watermelon. I just think it means a lot to so many, you know, everybody has their own view on this, right? So, and I like to leave it out there. Less defined, I would say. But the only problem that I'm sort of experiencing now is the film has been discontinued. So now there's a lifespan on my project, which is sort of exciting. I think I have about 1,500 pieces of film left, so we'll see. It's another layer.
Yeah.
Put an end date on it.
That's really interesting. And when you're working with technology, there does always seem to be a lifespan to keep in consideration, for sure. And the scale of this is so interesting. It's such a small photograph, but as you get closer and really realize it's a watermelon, and then even closer, the seeds are so small. This platter is actually probably very large. And that seems like a full-size watermelon. I love the scale, how it plays with your eye.
Well, it's interesting. I studied with the photographer Charlie Harbit, who was obsessed with the smaller prints. He said, there's nothing better than this small print to draw the viewer in, to just this intimate relationship with. So that's always really stuck with me.
Oh, well, bravo, you did it. Definitely draws the viewer in. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Coming around to the next piece is Renee Galanti, who was awarded Best Mixed Media. Let me turn it around so you guys can see it. Beautiful piece by Renee. She titled it Circles, and the medium is thread, sequin pins, watercolor, and paper. Again, some very non-traditional materials in this piece that the juror was really drawn to. Renee, talk to us a little bit about this piece and why you chose it. Hi.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, yeah, it's such an honor to even be a part of this conversation with you guys. I'm very moved by the idea that I get to be a part of this. So thank you. Yeah, God, how did I pick that one? You know, I had a few different titles for it. A friend of mine pointed out that it's 1,188 pins. And I'm kind of into like 11s and 8s, and I just thought it was interesting after he had pointed that out to me. And another person pointed out to me that each circle is your layers of thread, and I layer the thread. It's a color study. This is really my reference piece for every other piece I make, and it's the one that, like, anytime I'm invited to a show or anything, I always want it hanging there, but I can never put a price on it because I'm like, I need this one. This can't go anywhere. So, you know, I've been looking at it for a few years, and it was a big color study for me. I'm into the sacred geometry of it, the pattern of it. I come from weaving and textiles, so all these materials are around my house. There's something about pushing the pin through the watercolor paper into the cork that is like, once you're into it and you're doing 1,000 of them, there is just a flow, like a meditative thing, you know, that is just, there's just a satisfaction there. It's hard for me to put into words, I guess. And then it is very, very measured. Like, there is a preciseness to how separated they are. I do use grids and graph paper, but then there's a balance of how tight you can pull those threads. Like, when they're too tight, the pins can't hold it. You know, it's pins and paper and cork, so it's not, it can only take so much. With the right balance, they stay elevated off the paper, and then they play off each other, and then there's a shadow thing that happens. So that's what's going on with that. So how did I pick it? I picked it just because there's a variety of reasons. One is it happens to be the exact right size for Guildhall show. The other is that it is just my absolute favorite. I felt like from years of me kind of moving it around the house, it wasn't taken care of as well as it should be, and I put it in a frame for the show, and I did take a little encouragement from my husband, because I was like, it's not perfect enough. I have to remake it. I have to do this. I have to do that. And finally it was like, wait a minute, if it's my favorite, and then there has to be something to it, you know? Yeah. So let's put it out there and see if anyone resonates with it. And the fact that it did resonate was very encouraging for me. So thank you.
Definitely. It's such a unique process and a unique piece. And then I love your color study aspect of it, where you're taking these two colors of thread and sort of mixing them to the eye as you stand back. You know, they sort of combine visually, and then as you get closer, though, you see that you really do have like two complementary colors or tertiary colors together in one of the circles, and then from far away you can definitely see the color that you're working out and thinking about, with warm colors sort of grouping more in one area and cooler colors in another. And
yes,
it's very appealing. Very, very.
Thank you. I wanted it to work in like quadrants, and if you're just looking at 4 and 4, and then it had to work like kind of all together. And that's a funny part of it too, is like I'll get it together and then I have to take it all apart, and then I have to move that color to here. And it is interesting also how the colors combine and become a whole different thing. So there is something about them where trying to take pictures of them has been an interesting process, because so much of it you have to just stand there and look at it in the light and get it on an angle. And one of my favorite things is to just watch someone stare at it. And I'm like, oh, good, they're getting, because they're like, and they're a little optical, but there's also a little kind of piece happening in there. So
Totally. And in the gallery, we have one set lighting, but in a home, as the light changes during the day, I'm sure the shadows move and the piece has a dynamicness that's really interesting as well from the pins. It's great. Wonderful. Thank you, Renee.
thank you, Casey.
All right, moving on. Okay, next we have Mary Foamy, who won Best Work on Paper. Let me turn you around so you can see it. This is her piece here. Let me get my camera steady. This is titled Canyon, and it's a collograph. Best Work on Paper. Just beautiful. Okay, Mary, tell us a little bit about this piece and the process, and why you chose it for the show.
Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for doing this. The piece that I entered was actually kind of like a starting point for a new body of work that I've been working on now, actually all through this pandemic. A collograph, as you probably know, is where you have a base plate or a board and you glue different materials onto it. And then once they're on there, you seal it and then you ink it and then you run it through a printing press and transfer the image to paper. But what I've been doing, I've been using something called Sintra, which is like a real thin PVC. I don't know if you can see that. And I cut the image up into pieces and then I glue different textures on each piece. And then I reassemble it again on the printing press and ink everything up in different colors and then just run it through the press. So it's kind of a new way for me to work. So I'm a printmaker, but I don't use it in the traditional sense, making editions and things like that. I just use it as a tool. And I usually do monotypes, kind of mixed media with stuff and just whatever happens. So this is a little more controlled. But I like the fact that I can read the pieces in different color schemes, and they almost look like puzzles. So this one's kind of realistic or more realistic than I usually do. But what I've been doing in this series that I'm working in, I don't know if you can see this one, I have another one, and it's called, it's similar, it's called River Road. So I have the basic landscape and it's put together like a puzzle. But then what I'll do is I'll take pieces from that one and pieces from other ones. So I've got all these things and all this stuff and texture, and then I'll kind of deconstruct it and then rearrange it and then turn it into something totally different. So I've got little cutout shapes and textural pieces. So then it doesn't have to be realistic anymore. It can kind of just emerge into something else, which is how I like to work. I never like to really know how it's going to turn out. I kind of like to be surprised, but I do really I like stuff and I like texture, and that's why I like the collograph process so much, because it's just, I just find it very tactile and interesting. And this is kind of fun because it can be one thing and then it can become something else. And so the title, I guess, is going to be Puzzle Pieces for the series, and I'm still in the process of working on that. Yeah, so that's that.
That's great. And so the white space in between each of the shapes is literally just
It's like a
space in between your shapes that you're using for the ink.
Right. So each piece put together, there's a little, it doesn't line up completely, and sometimes that makes a new part of the image.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I love that. That's one of my favorite things about this piece is that little white break between each of the shapes. It just adds a whole nother dimension to how you experience the work. And the textures are incredible.
Yeah, that's what I really like about the whole process.
So much fun to explore all your textures, and the colors that you use are really successful. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mary. All right, let's keep moving here. I'm trying to go slow. I don't want to make anyone queasy staring at me moving here. All right, and we have one more piece to talk about. Best Sculpture winner is Tracy Jamar. And here's the piece on the pedestal we have here. It's a flatter sculpture, which I think is very unique and interesting and unexpected. Again, the juror really enjoyed some of these more inventive processes that some of you guys are working with. Tracy, tell us about this sculpture and why you chose it for the show.
Okay, I had entered it as a mixed media rather than a sculpture. I never even thought of it as a sculpture because it's only about 2.5 inches tall. So it shows you my kind of limited vision of different things and I was very excited and rather stunned to hear that I had won not only something but best sculpture. Anyway, I do a lot of gathering when I go out for walks from stones, shells, feathers, whatever I can find, and bring them home, branches, leaves, all of this. And I happened to be out walking and found this stone that had been broken in two. And it it was probably broken by a truck, but I've always been kind of amazed at big rocks that you see with trees growing out of them. And suddenly this big solid, what seemed like a solid rock, suddenly has this fissure in it in this kind of tree, which seems like a more fragile being, manages to break it apart. So I suddenly thought I would use fiber force. I like the alliterative sound of it. I also have I did quite a few, I was going to say centuries, but it was actually only decades of antique textile restoration. So I have a lot of old fabrics. And in this case, I love the way this damaged antique paisley just sort of made a ruffled edge that I really enjoyed very much. And I do a lot of mixing of different techniques. I kind of take traditional techniques and try to give it a contemporary form. And so there's knitting, rug hooking, coiling, shirring, maybe some crochet, regular old stitching, just using whatever fabrics I have, whether they're hand-dyed wools. I don't dye them, but I buy them from people who dye them, to cotton t-shirts that are past uses, t-shirts and wearable items, to whatever else just kind of grabs me. And all in this case, it was pretty much kind of an organic representation of them. And I pretty much just start by putting some things down and then letting it kind of grow from there, to use kind of a natural term. Yeah. And the size and the shape of it just sort of happened. The reason it ended up in the show was that the other pieces I had more recently finished were much too large. And I was afraid that if I had this as a hanging piece, that the stone, which is glued on, and I don't often use glue, would somehow come undone and would just fall off. So I decided to just make it a flat piece.
Sure. I think the orientation is one of the most exciting, interesting parts about it. And I think I think the juror really enjoyed that as well. And it is mixed media, but you did mean for it to be shown sort of flat like this. Yeah. And of course, we paired it with some sculptural pieces around it. And I think it carries its own so well. And gosh, your process seems very labor intensive and just incredible, the detail.
Well, I love the textures of kind of anything, and certainly fabrics give you that, but I then love the juxtaposition of the very smooth kind of non-colored stone as a ballast, so to speak, for all the other colors and movement going around it, that it really kind of anchored it.
Definitely sort of an everyday object that we see and almost just pass by is embedded in this extremely intricate and time-consuming process. It's very, very interesting juxtaposition there. I love that. And the color, you must organize your fabric by color.
Yes, and then there's a pile of kind of variegated colors. And then they're also sorted out as to fiber content, whether it's wool or if it's antique. I mean, there's many different categories. So I just wander around and I have to revisit all the bins and piles just to remind myself what I have.
Oh my gosh. How amazing. Amazing. Really beautiful piece. Thank you so much, Tracy. Anthony, what time is it? Not much time for questions. Let's see. What time is it? We have about 5 minutes.
We have about 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Okay. Well, we cut it really close there. I did want to mention that we do have the clothesline art sale coming up next. If anyone's interested, all the information is online. And after that, opening August 8th, will be an exhibition we are calling All for the Hall. Originally, Robert Longo was going to have a solo exhibition in the gallery this summer, fall. And it was his idea to turn that exhibition into a fundraiser. And what a thoughtful idea from Robert. We can't have our gala. We don't have our large theater performances this summer, so we are really missing quite a lot of income that we usually get to keep ourselves running year to year. So the August 8th exhibition is called All for the Hall. It will include a piece by Robert and many of his friends and other artists that we've reached out to donate works, and they will all be for sale. And that will be our big fundraiser this year. There's some really exciting names on that list, and you'll be seeing all that coming out really soon I think the press release should go out either this week or early next week. So we're really excited. It's about 50 artists that have all offered to donate pretty major works so that we can sell those and continue to do what we do here at Guildhall and supporting the arts in our community. Sadly, we really don't have time for Q&A, and I don't want to keep this everyone too long. This show is online till Monday at midnight, and it's shoppable online. Everything, if the artist is willing to sell, it's for sale on the website, and you can purchase it right through our website. And again, it's guildhall.org is the website, and everything is there. If you go to the 82nd Artist Members Exhibition, there's a link to shop the show there. And for all the artists that are on this call, we will be doing pickup of artwork next week. Those dates are there, and that procedure is there as well. Again, as touchless as possible, and all social distancing, very, very safe. And if anyone's concerned about anything, please feel free to email me. We want to be really flexible and help everyone out, whatever your unique situation is. Yeah, this show is available online. I just saw that question pop up. So if you go to our website, this is there. And actually it's shop.guildhall.org. And on that page is also a virtual tour. No person, just a walkthrough of the galleries. And so you can actually see almost the entire exhibition in that 7-minute video tour of the space. I also did a virtual tour towards the beginning of the show of my favorites. If you want to check that out, that's on our YouTube page. There's a lot of stuff on our YouTube page, a lot of content, a lot of artist interviews. And thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you if you've donated. If you haven't donated, I know this is a really tough time for everyone, and you're probably hearing donate, donate, donate all the time. And not everyone can. You can support us by subscribing to our YouTube page. That actually really helps our numbers. If you follow us on Instagram, repost, comment, like, sign up for our newsletters. All these very free sort of digital ways you can support us are huge to us as well. So thank you so much, everyone. And we're so glad we can be open again. Hopefully you can swing by this weekend and take a look in person. And then we'll be in touch for the next shows coming up here at Guildhall. Thank you, everyone. I want to scroll and see everybody again. You guys, artists, thank you. You guys did such a great job. I so appreciate you taking the time. It was a beautiful Thursday to be with us on Zoom. Thank you.